Light Media presents the Second Generation Talk podcast, a podcast by the second generation for the second generation.
Hello, and welcome to the Second Generation Talk, a podcast by the second generation for the second generation. I'm your host, Shreya Parajuli, and our title sponsor is JDM Title LLC and Spring Hill Real Estate, Realtor Ram Mishra. Our media sponsor is Nepal Talks, Ananta, Nepal, North Carolina. Our mortgage partner is One Mortgage Inc., Devdas Rajbahak, and our insurance partner is State Farm, Nirmal Atria. Today we have with us Mr. Ayush Sharma, a software engineer at Capital One who went to undergrad in VCU. So welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me, Shreya.
Thank you. So I know I gave a really brief introduction, but if you want to kind of give our viewers a little bit of background about yourself that you want to share.
So my name is Ayush Sharma. I went to VCU for undergrad, where I studied information systems.
Okay.
Outside of studying information systems, when I graduated, I got a job at Capital One, and I've been working there for a little bit over 2.5 years now, ever since I graduated. I worked at the Richmond office. I stayed in Richmond about a year after I graduated and worked from the Richmond headquarters. And then about a year ago, I moved over here and started working out of Tyson's, moved back in with my family.
What about back home? I guess, where's your hometown?
Yeah, hometown in Nepal is Chitwan. Okay. I was 7 years old when I moved here, so I don't really remember too much from back home. But I do visit every 4 years or so. So I always go back and see the updates. So I'm kind of entwined that way.
Awesome. I feel like that's just very common for people to be like, every 4 years we'll go back to Nepal. I think that was the last time I went as well. So I guess what made you kind of decide to come to Tyson's from like Richmond? Because I know you went to school there as well.
So I love Richmond. Like a lot of people, they have like a negative perspective for Richmond, but I'm kind of different where I enjoyed my 4 years there. And then after I graduated, I was like, hey, like I really want to stay in Richmond just for a little bit longer. Because I got the freedom, I lived alone, so I was able to actually like explore and kind of build my self-independence by living there. Yeah. And I credit all of that to Richmond, honestly.
Really? You learned to cook and everything?
Exactly. Just a little bit. HelloFresh orders.
That's still cooking.
But I worked in the Richmond headquarters for about a year, and then I realized I was paying too much for rent.
Ooh.
So I was like, okay, it's time to save money and kind of look towards getting a house, which kind of pushed me to move back in with my parents and start saving money towards a house. And that goal actually came true about 6-7 months ago, when we were actually able to purchase a house for the family and upgrade.
Thank
you so much.
That's a great achievement. I feel like that's truly the American dream for a lot of people, you know, to be able to buy a house. So that's awesome. I guess, how is it in the Tyson's office? Do you like it better? Do you feel like it's a little different from
No, I love the Richmond office.
Really?
The reason why is because it's more of a traditional campus in a way. Like if you look at the Facebook and Google headquarters in San Fran, like they're more of like a college campus where you're able to go from building to building, like ride bikes around, walk around, and it's more open. And that's what you get in Richmond. You have the same bikes, you have like lakes, you have like a basketball court you can play at, and you can move around. It's more like that traditional campus feel, which I really enjoyed. And that feeling kind of correlates throughout the entire campus in Richmond, versus with McLean. Since you're inside all the time, you don't really have a chance to go out and get like a fresh air or like walk around as much. It's more like your traditional corporate lifestyle where you're always constantly kind of working or busy doing something else.
That's fair.
Compared to Richmond.
That's fair. So I guess like taking a step back and just talking about your background and stuff, I guess why don't you share, life at VCU, why you chose to pursue the degree that you did, and what kind of led you to kind of pick it?
Yeah, so I guess we could start off when I was like a lot younger. Ever since like I would say middle school or even elementary school, I've always had a passion for like computers and like coding or just doing technical things. So I guess to credit it, I would credit my like career getting started in middle school when I would like jailbreak iPhones, like a very traditional basic things.
Jailbreaking iPhones.
This was back then, but it was something that I feel like a lot of like tech savvy kids tended to do, where on Androids you could kind of change your wallpaper and themes and do super cool things with it, and iPhone wouldn't let you do that. And I really wanted to like kind of customize my own phone. So I ended up like jailbreaking it and then customizing it to the way that I wanted, and that kind of built up from there. So from jailbreaking phones, I went on to like hacking video games that I would play. Like I would hack GTA, or I would just code different things. I started creating my own websites, things like that, and that just kind of built upon itself until I got to high school and I started programming.
Okay.
So I took some programming classes in high school. I think it was like 2 or 3, and it kind of paved the way for what I wanted to major in VCU. So when I went into VCU, I was actually a computer science major.
Okay.
I did that for about a year and a half, but I wasn't too big of a fan of like the math aspect of things. And realizing I have to continuously do math and like calculus for like the full
calculus
years.
too.
Yeah, exactly. So like algebra I'm okay with, but calc and me, we were just not friends. And then I talked to one of my other friends and they were doing information systems. And they were like, hey, it's kind of like CS, but not as math focused. But you take business classes instead of math classes. And I was like, that sounds amazing. Like,
You're like, say less. You're like,
let me go ahead and do
up.
that. So I ended up switching my major to information systems.
Gotcha.
And did that. And throughout my time at VCU was like kind of a research university, so they made you do a lot of research projects, but I also did a lot of like personal projects on the side as well, because I've always been super tech savvy. One of like my biggest projects that I love talking about, I guess, would be my smart home project. For people that know me, they know I'm kind of lazy, but kind of innovative. Kind of innovative. No, I'm gonna be honest. Like I hate turning off lights and I hate closing the blinds and stuff. So I was like, how can I automate my lifestyle where I don't have to do these mundane tasks every single day? And like Amazon came out with their smart plugs and smart light bulbs, and then Google came out with their smart plug and smart light bulbs, and I would kind of always upgrade to the latest thing that came out until Apple started getting into the smart home ecosystem, and then I finally decided to settle with Apple. The issue with that was I had already purchased so many different accessories for my smart house from Google and Amazon that they were just sitting there going to waste. Like I would have to throw them away. So I was like, what can I do to kind of incorporate all these devices that I've already purchased into my Apple ecosystem and kind of not let them go to waste.
And it's a lot of money too.
Like, exactly.
To go to waste.
So I ended up purchasing a Raspberry Pi and installing something called a Home Bridge onto it. And what that does is it picks up your Amazon and Google devices, like these third-party smart home accessories, and kind of correlates them and incorporates them into your Apple HomeKit ecosystem. And that way I was able to incorporate all of these third-party accessories that Apple wouldn't allow you to add onto your system, onto the Apple ecosystem, and I was able to control it. And that was one of like the biggest personal projects that I was really proud of, because it spoke true to my core, and it was something that I was able to do just by myself and have it actually working for my day-to-day. So throughout my time at college, I had all my lights automated and everything.
How difficult was it to like use Raspberry Pi to do that?
Yeah, so setting it up was initially difficult because I had never worked with the Raspberry Pi. It was all completely new to me. But there are like tutorials that you could follow online, and if you ever run into issues, there's like different forums that you could reach out to and ask for help at, which really does help you out. There's an entire community around it for other like-minded folks that have gone through the same like situation. So after asking for help and figuring things out, it wasn't too hard, I would say.
That's awesome. Okay, viewers, if you want anyone to set up any smart home devices or anything, feel free to reach out right here. So I guess, it clearly speaks to how passionate you are about tech and all that. I guess what inspired you to kind of, apply to Capital One? Was that kind of your dream? Were you looking at different places and Capital One spoke out to you? Or
so Capital One has always been known to be, I guess, like the Apple, Google, or Facebook of our area. Like in Virginia, Capital One is known to be one of like the biggest companies. And I was like, all right, like I definitely want to see if I could get in there. But when I was applying for jobs, I kind of limited myself. I only applied to 5 different places. One was Infosys. That was a company that I knew that I would 100% get into. It wasn't very like a very pronounced company, so I knew I would get in there. I applied to Amazon as well, which was in my mind like a middle ground company. And then I applied to Capital One, which was kind of like a high achieving company that I might be able to get into, but it might not. And then of course there were Apple and Facebook as well, which were like super high achieving. And I was like, I might not get in because of how competitive it is, but I'll still try. And out of those, I actually got offers for all 3, other than Apple and Facebook. So I got offers from Amazon, I got offers from Infosys, and I got offers from Capital One.
That's awesome.
Thank you. And from that, I just decided to kind of go for Capital One because it seemed like they were super close by my parents, and I wanted to stay in the Virginia area. And two, I liked their mission statement of changing banking for the better. They wanted to actually make an impact in people's lives, and I actually wanted to kind of be part of that mission statement and make that difference.
Awesome. I guess what skills and experience do you think like really helped you like get on Capital One's radar, get a job offer and all of that?
Yeah, so the biggest skill would be personal projects.
Okay.
Like everyone can go to school and have a academic background, but the biggest differentiator for people that, let's say you have two applicants that both went to VCU, got the same GPA, things like that. If you have personal projects that can kind of back you up for your passion, that will get your foot inside the door compared to the other guy.
That's fair.
Right? So personal projects would be, I guess, one of the biggest things. And also if you have job experience outside of that as well. Personally, I didn't have any internship experiences. By the time that I was ready to apply to internships, I'd already gotten my offer from Capital One. So I declined the internship offer that I did get. But I had worked at Best Buy throughout my year at VCU. I worked there for 3 years, and that was able to kind of speak for my teamwork, collaboration skills, problem solving skills, because you have to solve problems at your job regardless of what job it is. You still learn something new. So I guess that helped me out whenever I was talking to my interviewers regarding like approaching different situations, how I would approach it, versus if you never worked a day in your life, you wouldn't really know how to go about it.
Right, that's fair. I know obviously technical skills vary job to job, but I guess what soft skills do you think were very valuable that, has helped you in your career today, when starting out, for our viewers listening?
So for soft skills, teamwork and communication skills, those are the two most important things. You're not going to be able to do your job 100% perfectly all the time. So whenever you do run into those issues that you will run into, you need to be able to communicate it properly to your manager, your product owner, your product manager, because you're not in trouble, right? It's not like school where if you're not able to get something done, you're going to be in trouble. You just need to know how to relay that information over to the higher ups, where they have like set deadlines and stuff. Because if you're able to make a valid argument of why this wasn't able to be done, then they can vouch for you and move those deadlines. Versus if you're just like, oh, I just wasn't able to get it done, then you're going to be on the hook because they will ask why. So being able to communicate is one of the biggest things, and then teamwork as well. So in my current team, I do a lot of work that involves teamwork. I'm always doing cross collaborations, whether it's getting input from other teams or working with other teams to understand their systems and incorporate their systems into whatever that we're building. So teamwork is very important. Being able to talk to each other all the time, being able to properly send Slack messages and spend some time or set some time apart to actually get together and look at the problem together is always something that will be very beneficial. So if you're able to master teamwork and communication skills, I'm going to say you're at a really good spot in terms of soft skills. That's
awesome. I think another thing I probably want to add is just like in my experience, I feel like just recognizing that you're not the smartest person in the room and that you're constantly learning. I feel like a lot of people feel like they need to come into their job knowing everything, and you obviously won't. So I feel like I think that kind of ties in with like networking and teamwork, like being able to ask questions and being like, I don't know this, like, asking your managers for help, things like that. So I think that also helps as well.
Exactly. A lot of these large corporations, they have very like proprietary stuff that they work on that's not out there in the public. So it's not something you can just like search up on Google and get all of the information of, right? So if you switch jobs, even though you're the smartest guy at Capital One, let's say you go into another company, you're probably not going to know anything about their systems. You're going to have to learn again, like from the beginning. So don't expect to know everything, like ever.
Be a sponge.
Exactly.
Ready to absorb anything at anywhere.
Alight Media presents the Second Generation Talk podcast, a podcast by the second generation for the second generation.
Hello, and welcome to the Second Generation Talk, a podcast by the second generation for the second generation. I'm your host, Shreya Parajuli, and our title sponsor is JDM Title LLC and Spring Hill Real Estate, Realtor Ram Mishra. Our media sponsor is Nepal Talks, Ananta, Nepal, North Carolina. Our mortgage partner is One Mortgage Inc., Devdas Rajbahak, and our insurance partner is State Farm, Nirmal Atria. I think one thing that really stuck out to me is the fact that you said that you only applied to 5 places. I feel like I know a lot of people who apply to a dozen different jobs hoping like something sticks, someone reaches out. I guess, why did you feel like you only needed to apply to 5 jobs, or like how did you tailor your resume, your experience to, know like these are the places I want to apply at. I'm not just going to blindly apply to a dozen different places.
So while I was getting ready to apply, I had friends that did the same thing where they would apply to 50, 100 different places and they never would get a response back. They would always get rejected. And I was like, okay, then what's the fundamental issue that's going on here? And it had to be your resume, because usually you don't write cover letters for like technical jobs, right? It's only your resume. And if you're not even getting past that resume phase to where you're able to get like a voice phone call interview, then it means there's an issue with your resume. So what I did is I took a step back and I started going around and asking everybody I knew that was a professional to review my resume, to the point where I had, when I checked on like Microsoft Word, it said I had like 38 revisions to that same file. So I went back and revised my resume over 38 times before I actually submitted that final resume to the 5 places that I actually applied for. So if you're the same person that's applying to 50 to 100 different places, take a step back and look at your resume. Go ahead and get that fixed up, and then kind of decide where you want to go and have a company in mind, and then tailor your resume to that company and that job role. Like if you're applying for a cybersecurity role, don't put things for like data analyst stuff into your resume, right? Like cater your resume to the cybersecurity role. That will get your foot into the door, and that way you could at least get that face-to-face interview or move on from just like that automatic decline phase. And that will kind of help you out. So what I recommend everyone, even nowadays, I always have people reaching out to me. How can I get my foot in the door is their question. Take a step back, focus on your resume, fix that up, and then start only applying to like 3 or 4 places, but cater your resume to those places that you're applying for.
Gotcha. That makes sense. I guess, how did you go about approaching like the interview process? Do you feel like you really needed to like study? Because I know some places have a lot of like technical based questions, others have more generic like soft skill based questions. So I guess, how did you kind of approach those?
Yeah, so my interview was actually 3 hours long.
Oh, jeez. Oh,
so at Capital One, we call it Power Day. And it's 1 hour long interviews, 3 of them back to back on the same day. So there wasn't any really way that I could prepare for it. But when I went in, they kind of prepared me of what I was going to be interviewing for. So it was like a behavioral, it was a technical, and it was like a case study. So I had to pretty much pass all 3 in order to get the job. So preparation-wise, it was just like, all right, this is what I've experienced so far in like the 21, 22 years that I've been alive. This is all that I know for technical skills. This is all that I know for behavioral skills. And case study, I have no idea what's coming my way. I'm just going to approach it when I get it. So I went in and was just honest. Like I just said whatever came to my mind. I was for my technical skills, I was able to tell the interviewer exactly what I was thinking as I was going through the question. Same thing for the case study. I was able to just speak my mind and just show him my train of thought and my thought process, where even if I didn't do good on the case study, he was able to understand how I was able to think through the problem and try to find the solution, which I believe helped me get into the door, get my foot into the door and like get the job.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like the interviewers probably just care about your thought process more than you trying to get to the answer. So I think as long as you leverage that.
Yeah, exactly. Really well. And then surprisingly, even for the behavioral part, Best Buy came into play.
Really?
Like even though I thought Best Buy was just like a side job that I did just to get like money to play with on the side when I was in college, Best Buy came into play because there were behavioral questions on like how would you kind of approach a situation where somebody's unhappy with the work that you've done, things like that. And I was able to bring up my past experience at Best Buy and kind of share that, which the interviewer really liked. So any and all job experience does help. Right?
Clearly. I mean, you got the job, so you clearly said something right in your interviews. So I guess let's talk about, the day-to-day at Capital One. What do you do as a software engineer? What's kind of your day-to-day like? What do you kind of focus on?
So my day-to-day varies throughout the week because Capital One is operating in a hybrid model. So they want us to go into the office 2 to 3 times a week, and it just depends on the person. But the days that I go in office, usually I get there around 10 a.m. or so. I work for 2 hours until 12 o'clock, and then we have lunch for about an hour. Sometimes we go out and grab lunch, and if we still have time, there's like table tennis, actual like pool tables there that we actually are able to play table tennis with until our lunch break is over. And then at 1 o'clock, I go back to work. catch up on any messages I might have missed during lunch, and then continue working. I know it's not super like fun and lavish like what you see on the day-to-day lifestyles on YouTube, but this is like the reality of what you're going to be doing. Is you're going to work, you're going to have your lunch break, you'll have time to like socialize, but majority of the time you're going to be working. Okay.
Do you feel like your day-to-day is a lot of like cross-team collaboration? Do you feel like you're doing a lot more solo like work day-to-day? Or
yeah, so it varies project to project. Like my previous project, I was creating a database all by myself, so I didn't really need any cross collaborations. That was all done by myself. But right now we're working on a different project that requires input from all the different teams. So different teams own different services, and I'm collaborating with them to understand their services and the changes that are occurring, so that I can kind of implement those into my project as well. Which pretty much every day nowadays I'm talking to somebody new on a different team.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably helped you grow your network as well, because you're constantly talking to people. So I guess in terms of like continuous learning, I guess what opportunities does like Capital One provide, or any opportunities that you look for to continue growing your skill set and your knowledge? Because I feel like working corporate, you're always needing to learn something new, trying something new. So I guess how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, so Capital One is really great at that, especially in my team where I've been a full stack developer ever since I joined. So I've pretty much worked on everything from front end, back end, working with APIs, working with databases, working on AWS console. Pretty much anything you could think of, I've pretty much done already. And that's just the experience that Capital One allows you to get, because their projects are never stale. Like there's always going to be new projects that you're able to work on. And then they also, Capital One also supports studying to get certificates. So I have my solutions architect certificate from AWS, but if you want to study for something else, your manager is very supportive of that. And sometimes you even get money, like you even get paid for to get the certificates, where they'll reimburse you the cost of the certificate. And then another thing that Capital One supports is like higher learning, higher education. So I've actually been thinking about getting my master's in this fall and signing up, and Capital One will reimburse you about $5,000, I believe, a semester, which is great. It's free education.
Free education, you're paying less out of pocket.
So. Exactly. So yeah, Capital One supports you in many different ways in order to like continue learning. It's a ever learning journey.
Gotcha. That's awesome. I guess let's take a step back. Outside of work, you talked about some of the hobbies that you enjoy doing, but I guess any other hobbies besides more like technical things that you like doing?
Besides more technical things, I like snowboarding.
You don't hear that from many people.
I recently picked that up this season again, but I really enjoy it. I go to a lot of the slopes that are in the area in like Maryland and Pennsylvania, but I want to branch out to go to like West Virginia, Colorado, because I've heard really good things about them. So I enjoy that. I also have a dog, a Lucy. She's a Shiba Inu, and she's 2 years old now, so I enjoy spending time with her, taking her out on walks, going on different hikes and things. And also like just spending time with my friends, like just the basics, I would say.
No, I mean, I feel like that's important, especially, finding that balance between working and like hobbies and stuff like that. So I feel like you do a lot of fun, cool things outside of work, technical things, you snowboard. Would you take on skiing as well, or do you think you'll stick to snowboarding?
I think snowboarding is a little more fun, so I'm going to stick with snowboarding.
That's so fair. So I guess, for some of our viewers, I guess, what piece of advice do you have for people who want to get their foot into the door in terms of like software engineering and things like that?
So if you're looking to get your foot into the door, the biggest thing I would recommend is networking. So one thing I wish I would have done sooner was create a LinkedIn account. That way, anybody I met that's a professional, I would be able to connect with them. Because whenever I was looking for a job, one of the first things I did was, hey, I'm going to be graduating, and I'm looking for a job. And I posted that to my LinkedIn, and I got a lot of responses from people that were in my connections. They reached out to me. They said, hey, we're going to be hiring here. We're going to be hiring there. And that was very helpful. Just kind of see who is in my inner circle that can help me get my foot inside the door to any company, not just Capital One. So being able to network, connect with different people would be one of the most important things that I could tell for people that are coming up and starting to apply to different jobs. As you're in college, don't ever think it's too early to network. Network as soon as you can, even if you're in high school. Create that LinkedIn account, because it will definitely help you out in the future.
Viewers, make that LinkedIn account. I guess looking back, is there anything you wish you would have done differently?
Honestly, no. I don't think I have any regrets for what I've done in the past. ever since I got to college, it was more so like, hey, you're on your own now. You got to make your own choices, and you got to kind of build your own future by yourself. And I kind of did that just by understanding where I want to be in the next 5 years and setting a goal for myself, which I feel like I've achieved. So no regrets, really.
Yeah, I feel like that's important. As long as you feel satisfied, you're fulfilled, you're happy with what you've done, which clearly sounds like it feels like you have. I feel like you're very content with where you are. So, well, thank you so much, Ayush. I feel like you gave everyone a lot of valuable information. You clearly have a really great career and you're doing really well for yourself. So I feel like a lot of our viewers can probably take away a lot of amazing stuff. So really appreciate and thank you for the time.
No, for sure. Thank you so much for having me, Shreya.
All right. Thank you for watching The Second Generation Talk, a podcast by the second generation for the second generation. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram channels. Thank you for watching.